digital film. When you look at the pictures that they've taken, there are all these strange and unusual craft, and sometimes even beings in the that have showed up on the photographs. If you would like to see some of these, you can go to my YouTube channel, which has about 400 interviews and videos up there. It's Mr. UFO's Secret Files, and you can type in Stella Lansing, Lansing. She was a lady who lived not far from Betty Hill in New Hampshire, who would go out with an 8mm camera and take photographs of the sky, and some of the weirdest stuff that you can imagine would show up on the 8mm footage, and that's pretty hard to fool around with 8mm. I mean, you could do it, and of course this was 2.5 decades ago or 3 decades ago, and she was just a little housewife. She didn't know anything about faking films. Faces would show up on there. She would get clocks, just all kinds of literal madness. I mean, believe it or not, I think it's a 10-minute video up there that was transferred from Unsolved Sightings, I believe was the program at the time, and it's well worth a watch. And also type in Mark Brinkerhoff, and you'll see some of the photographs that he takes. He can go to his window. He lives near Central Park. He goes to his window, opens it up, and sticks his camera out, and all these things appear. The objects appear on the photographs. And he's even got up to upstate New York, like near Pine Bush, where they've had sightings at all over the last couple of decades or so, and it takes photographs. And he's got one that when they blew up the negative, the photograph, it seems to be a porthole, and you can actually see the silhouette or the shadow of a being inside the craft. So these are my UFO repeaters. The people who have this paranormal ability to go out and take a picture. So we're doing about a book or two a month. We just have one that should be out in a couple of days. It's about Nikola Tesla being a spaceman from another planet. Now I know that's bizarre. He, of course, is one of the greatest geniuses of all times, but most people don't realize that he's also kind of this New Age figure. That has a parallel life of being brought here from some other world in space to help the development of the planet. We publish, I guess, I call it alternative publishing, but I guess a lot of people would call it fringe material. And it, you've got to have an open mind. People ask me, well, do you believe in all this stuff? And you know what I tell them, Gary? UFOs act independently of my thinking or anyone else's. They do what they want to do, and they do it on their own time. That's what people say, well, will there ever be UFO disclosure? Not unless they want us to know.
Oh, yeah, you probably said that better than anybody ever has, right there.
Yeah. Yep. And, this hooey about landing on the White House lawn. Well, they almost made it there one time, back in 1952 in the summer, in July or August. They appeared a couple of times over the Washington, D.C., and they were shot at. What a welcoming committee. In fact, there's a book that we published by a fellow who worked for the CIA, but he was also in the Navy. And a part of the craft that they shot at came down in his backyard, believe it or not, and he took the material, the part of the chunk of this thing, and put it in his safe. And do you know it disappeared? But nobody else had the combination to it. So I don't know. I think somebody said, well, somebody from the CIA got it or something. No, I think it was dematerialized by the boys, or whatever you want to call them. Wilbur Smith in Canada, who headed Project Magnet, used to call them the boys from Topside.
Yeah, they probably didn't want that evidence around, so they just recovered it.
I don't think they did. Now, how about the wreckage from Roswell or some of these other places? Supposedly they ended up maybe at Area 51, but also at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. We have a chapter in the book. Well, we didn't just center everything on Area 51. The book is 300 pages. You're not going to just read about Area 51, but there are other places around the United States where wreckage and reverse technology may be taking place. And one is, of course, in Dayton, Ohio, at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which, incidentally, of course, was the home of Project Blue Book for many, many years. So, talk about being two-faced. If they actually had aliens on the base or were doing reverse technology, and in the other part of the base somewhere, they were telling people that all UFOs were the planet Venus and meteorites, and of course the most famous being balloons. I don't know how many people have even seen weather balloons. I mean, I had a sighting at the age of 10. There were two objects up in the sky. They circled over the block where I lived, and the authorities said a couple of days later there was a little item in the newspaper that people had seen these things, but they were weather balloons. These were not weather balloons, Gary. I don't know what they were, but they seemed to be under intelligent control.
Well,
they weren't weather balloons.
Yeah, one thing too, years after Roswell, the military came out, and they were, it's not too many years ago, they were talking about, all the weather balloon in Roswell, they were talking about it was made out of mylar. They didn't have mylar then.
Yes.
It was rubber. It was canvas, rubberized. That was the weather balloon back then, not mylar.
Mogul balloon, I believe it was. They claimed they were sending it up to the upper atmosphere, maybe to spy on Russia or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, well, at least they didn't say it was one of those balloons that Japan sent off a whole bunch during World War II. They could have used that too.
Well, my take on Roswell is a little bit different than most people's. Although I cannot prove it, I have speculated, and I do provide evidence in a couple of my books, that these were craft that were based on Nazi technology, and that the government would rather, if you're going to believe in UFOs, they would rather have you believe that they come from outer space rather than to admit along the way that they were actually in collusion with the Germans. After World War II, we brought over, I think, an astonishing number of German engineers and scientists, like 5,000 of them, under Project Paperclip, including Werner von Braun and Hermann Oberth. And according to the information that we have received, going back to even 1920, the Germans were receiving transmissions from some other star system. And they had 9 mediums who would go into trance and do automatic writing, and it came up with the plans for these circular devices. And I do believe that Roswell, being close to White Sands and some of these other places where they were doing rocket testing and testing of other vehicles, that some of these things crashed nearby, and they would make you want to believe, if you're going to believe in anything, that they were from outer space and they were not something manufactured here on Earth, even though they would have been based on some real foreign technologies. So I do believe that there are some things that are going on that have been cleverly covered up with disinformation and misinformation.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the things about the UFO phenomena that is very perplexing. It also makes it very interesting, but you can really get spun around in this. Every ufologist has their own belief system, and one of the unfortunate things is that there has been a lack on many of the groups and individuals involved in this lack of cooperation, because if you don't believe what I believe, then I'm not going to share anything that I know with you.
Oh, you're so right. Hey, our time is almost up. Now,
No.
Oh, yeah, time goes so fast when you're having fun. Do you have a website you can,
Oh, yes. Ours is the conspiracyjournal.com and also Tesla's Secret Lab. And if you just hustle me over an email at MrUFO8 at Hotmail, MRUFO, and the number 8 at hotmail.com, I'll put you on the mailing list, and you'll receive a lot of goodies. And unfortunately, I'm not going to make it out to Area 51 because I'm in New York, and Nevada is a long way away. And but I will be monitoring this, and I will be out actually on Coast to Coast on a Wednesday night, and that will be the latest update. And I'll forward everything, and you can find me on Facebook. I'm very visible. Anybody that wants can find me. Just Google me, Timothy Beckley, and you can get in touch with me that way. And happy to hear from everybody. And I try to answer most of the email as I can. Even check my spam mail a couple of times a day, so you won't get lost.
Well, Timothy, I want to thank you for being on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark, and that is a great book. I'm still waiting for my copy. I'm going to sit down.
I don't know where it is because you should have gotten it, but I'm going to check, and if you haven't gotten it, I will send you another one. Or I was just sitting there. Amazon mails them out, and they do it pretty quickly, but it could have gotten lost in the shuffle, or they could have left it in the neighbor's mailbox. You can't really tell. I mean, but I will check on it. And you keep up the good work, and keep the information flowing, and continue making our dreams much better at night.
And keep in touch with me too, because if you get any authors on there, with new information about UFOs, contact me.
Absolutely, man. We'll even get you Nikola Tesla.
Okay, sir. You take care, my friend.
That's hard to do, but maybe somebody will channel him. And you want to have Mark Brinkerhoff on because he's a great guy, and he's got a lot of stuff about Ashtar and the friendly space people, because they're not all bad guys. I have to remind people of that because the gal Carol Rodriguez, who has worked for me for many, many years, she keeps saying, "Oh, you're too negative. You're too negative." No, I just let the facts and the information speak for itself. So there you go.
Okay, sir. You have a great weekend, Timothy.
You too. You too.
Okay, my friend. Gary. You take care. Night. Okay, James. Well, what do you think about all the UFO stuff we learned about Area 51, about what's going on, next week? I don't know. What do you think?
That's a lot of stuff. I'm going to have to sit back and process all that. A lot of good stuff, info tonight, and it was great info, great show.
Yeah, and again, if you're going to this event, and you're going to go camping and whatever like that, make sure you have a full tank of fuel, and make sure you bring enough food and water. And actually, it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit more, because you might have to share. Who knows? But you know what? They're going to have plenty of beer from what everybody said here tonight. So you can at least sit there and swap stories about UFOs and stuff like that. James, you're the only one I know that hasn't seen a UFO.
No, I did. Remember about, I don't know. I don't know what it was. I can't say it was I seen something. I got a picture of it. I think I showed you about 2 months ago, a month and a half ago. Broad daylight, cigar shape. It was higher than any aircraft I know. I'm going faster than anything I know. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was something of ours, top secret. Don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. That's the whole thing. How do you know the difference between an alien UFO and one that's from our own government? Just think about that. We don't know.
We don't. It reminds me of the old X-Files episode where they got a UFO and it was our military and it driving it. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, boy, the weekend is here. We're almost out of time. I want to tell people, if you got a good story about UFOs, if you've been abducted, okay, from a child age or adult age, and you got a story, you can get a hold of me. I'm very easy, to get a hold of. It's Night Dreams Talk Radio at gmail.com. Night Dreams Talk Radio at gmail.com. Send me an email. I'm more than happy to read it, and and I'll get a hold of you, and we'll chat back and forth and see if you can if it'll work out coming on the show and telling your story. Well, anyway, I'm going to jump out of here. It's time to take my 2 days off.
It's time for you to get something to eat.
Yeah.